The more than 7 billion people living on Earth are incredibly diverse. There are ethnic groups living in the world's smallest corners, whose lives and days we can't even imagine. And there are some who are way more special than you would think. A few of these isolated groups have developed exceptional skills and characteristics thanks to a special environment or to a strange coincidence. There are some of those that are almost superpowers. However, not only one exceptional human being has them, but a whole group. Which one would you accept from the list? Do you maybe know a similar incredible story about some people on the globe? Hi, I'm Donat from List Hive, and today I brought you 10 incredible tribes with real superpowers. Most people can only hold their breath for a few minutes underwater. If we swim and use up oxygen from our lungs faster because of it, even 1 minute can seem like a pretty long time. A tribe called Bajaus lives in Indonesia, whose members can easily make it for 10 minutes while swimming tens of meters deep, fishing and collecting clams. They are the only group in the human race who has genetically adapted to diving as a lifestyle. The best and most experienced Bajaus can stay underwater for 30 minutes, while they swim down to even 40 meters deep. Researchers have observed that marine mammals have a disproportionately big spleen and that this organ is associated with underwater life. Besides its functions, the spleen is a blood storage. When we dive, it contracts and gets oxygen-filled blood to the rest of our body. During the Bajaus tribe's ultrasound examinations, it turned out that they have a spleen that is almost 1.5 times as big as the rest of the people on the planet. They also found out that a particular gene causes this change. A few thousand years of active underwater lifestyle and a little mutation can create wonders. Everyone who has opened their eyes underwater knows that you can only see things blurry and hazy. Of course, this is enough so that you won't hit anyone or the wall of the pool, but if we actually want to know what's happening around us, we need goggles. The muscles of the eye are used to being surrounded by air, and they control the eye according to that. However, a tribe's children in Thailand are able to focus perfectly underwater too. The Mokens tribe, much like the Bajaus, lives by the water. The young Mokens underwater sight was examined from pretty early on. At first, they thought that an evolutionary change has happened, but as it turned out, with proper training, most kids are able to learn it as well. At a young age, like everything else, their eyes are resilient and can still adapt to underwater conditions. As we grow older, our eyeballs get more stiff and the organ can't deal with diving anymore. Unfortunately, the tribe's newer generations probably won't be able to do this because a tsunami has destroyed their villages and forced them to leave the seaside. Climbing the Mount Everest is one of the hardest goals people can set for themselves. The world's highest mountain has caused the deaths of 280 people since it has been conquered in 1953. Besides mountain accidents, most deaths have something to do with extreme heights and the oxygen-poor environment. Heart failure and tiredness caused by the lack of oxygen have demanded lives over the years, but all these things avoid the Sherpas. The Sherpas are an ethnic group from Nepal who live on the northeast Himalayas. The first climber of the Everest, Edmund Hillary, was accompanied by a Sherpa on his way, and they've been a part of every expedition ever since. Even though only a small percentage of the Sherpas lives from guiding mountain climbers, chances are any of them would be better than you or me. The body of the Himalayan tribe deals with the cold and oxygen-poor environment better than any other people does. Similarly to the diving Indonesians, 6,000 years of mountain life was enough for their bodies to get used to the extreme surroundings. Even with just a little oxygen in their blood, they have more energy, their muscles can work more effectively, and they are particularly immune to any sickness concerning the climbers. In a hidden village of Ecuador, there is a high rate of people with Laron syndrome, or in other words, dwarfism. There are approximately 100 people living in that village with low growth hormone levels, which is otherwise a rare mutation. The American research team that examined the villagers have never found diabetes, and there was only one non-deadly cancer patient over 22 years. The two epidemics of our time has showed up in an average rate among the rest of the villagers. A study that examines the blood of people with Laron syndrome has concluded that the part of their cells are more protected from genetic injuries. The faulty cells die in them instead of keep dividing and developing into cancer. There is still a large number of ongoing research, but it might turn out that these people carried the secret to preventing cancer and diabetes. Anyone who follows the Olympics even a little has probably already seen Kenyan men and women among the runners. From 800 meters to the marathon, people from African countries earn medals at almost every distance, but interestingly, most of them are from the same ethnic group. At the moment, the world's best runners are from the Kalenjin tribe, and the Labour running tribe has already stuck on them. The trend started in the 60s, and ever since Kenya has been performing better and better at the Olympics. Moreover, the Kalenjins earn medals representing other countries as well. Several sport researchers and scientists have tried to explain the reason behind this phenomenon. According to current information, their regimen full of starch, the high disposition of their homes, and for that reason the oxygen usage of their body plays a huge role, but of course genetics has to be mentioned. One of the most important factors for long-distance running is the size of the ankle and the calf. The Kalenjins have a rather thin body composition with small ankles and calves, which is ideal for running from an anatomic point of view. There are surprisingly many, almost 70 ethnic groups living on Earth who are able to communicate with whistling. The first thing that comes to your mind shouldn't be the "hey you" attention-grabbing whistle. I'm talking about almost speech-level communication. Just to mention some, Ethiopian cave tribes, natives from the Amazonas, and whale-hunting Eskimos use this special method. A whistle travels a lot longer than regular speech, plus it passes through a dense forest or a river's rumbling much better. Most ethnic groups use this during hunting because they don't scare animals this way. The Chinese Hmongs are even more special than the other whistling tribes. The Hmong farmers frequently talk to each other with whistling while working on the fields and use it for hunting too. But no one else in the world uses it for flirting and for poetry. Whistling cannot be identified, so lovers can communicate with each other secretly. The Australian natives' special ability is a simple but cool one. They have exceptionally great eyesight. Their vision is so much better than an average person's that it's hard to even describe. Good and bad vision is usually demonstrated with a simple proportion. The average, not deteriorated eyesight is a 6:6 ratio. This means that if you are looking at an object from 6 meters, you see that object as an average person sees it from 6 meters. If your eyes are bad, then it could be a 6:7. In this case, you see the object from 6 meters as others see it from 7. Now, if you got this, imagine that among Australian natives, 6:3 and 6:2 eyesight has been measured, and the record is 6:1.4. A person like this has a vision that is 4 times better than yours or mine. No wonder that the Australian Special Forces likes to use natives for scouting. In most cases, binoculars would be necessary to see something that they can see with their naked eye. Researchers have not exactly found an explanation to this ability yet. The sad thing is that even though they have the best vision in the world, they lose this ability pretty fast because of the bad hygiene and the lack of medical care. Most of them get blind by the age of 40. In the 1950s, there was a Kuru outbreak in the Fore tribe of Papua New Guinea. Kuru is similar to the mad cow disease. It's deadly, and the tribe has come across with it because of their strange burial habits. The members of the Fore tribe eat from the brain of their dead before they bury them. Most of the Fores got sick in the 50s, and 2% of them had passed away every year. When they finally stopped the tradition, the number of sick people has decreased. However, catching and surviving the Kuru had an unexpected side effect. The survivor Fores become immune to most diseases causing dementia. The gene that has evolved in them offers protection against Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, which is the most common disease causing dementia in the elderly. Even the Parkinson disease can't cause them any harm. The people who live the longest are the natives of the Okinawa island. Nowhere, not in any ethnic group, are there any people over 100 than on this Japanese island. Japan is on the top of the ranking list in the research of health organizations about life expectancy anyway, but Okinawa is in the lead among Japanese regions as well, or at least it was until recently. Researchers have attributed this phenomenon to the islanders' diet with a high nutrition level and low calorie intake. The Okinawa diet is a concept known worldwide. Besides that, other cultural benefits help them as well. For example, they live a really peaceful and stress-free life. Their communities do lots of sports and have a lot of fun. The inhabitants of Okinawa have constantly been getting lower and lower on the lists in the last few years, and it's mostly because of the Americans. US soldiers have been stationing there since the end of the World War, and many fast food chains, supermarkets and restaurants have opened there in the last 60 years. The after-war generation diverged from their traditional diet more and more, and never before seen diseases appeared on the island. This change has taken effect by the 90s, and it's been getting worse ever since. Members of the Bolivian Tsimanes tribe are being examined since 2002 because cardiovascular diseases completely avoid them. In their case, it's not a mutation or a special gene that causes the immunity, but much like with the Okinawans, their particular lifestyle is the reason. The arteries, veins and blood vessels of the Tsimanes are perfectly clean, which is unimaginable for most people nowadays. Their blood sugar level, their cholesterol and their blood pressure is also lower. They eat very little fat and protein and eat plenty of carbohydrates, but only unprocessed ones. They have never even heard of white flour or sugar. They live a very active life and work a lot, almost only physical work. Fishing and hunting that is worth of 6 hours of exercise would probably clean our blood vessels too. That's it for today. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to List Hive.